Jesse Lingard. Not you, obviously. I'm not calling you Jesse Lingard. Unless you are Jesse Lingard watching this video. That'd be weird, wouldn't it? Afternoon, Jesse. I'm talking about Jesse Lingard here, obviously. There are suggestions that two Turkish clubs, namely Fenerbahce and Galatasaray, are interested in signing Mr. Lingard because he's a free agent, as you'd know. I'm not going to get myself worked up into a frenzy on this one. I don't believe it will happen, basically. I do believe that there would be interest in Turkish clubs, in fact, many clubs, for Jesse Lingard. Let's be fair. At the moment, particularly given the prices of players, a free agent with not many miles on the clock, and I made him sound like a car, but he's a freebie, a free motor with not many miles on the clock, and a fresh MOT is going to be attractive to a lot of clubs. However, I would suspect Jesse Lingard won't go to Galatasaray or Fenerbahce. If everything have been told we are supposed to believe is that Jesse's not realised the error of his ways, but maybe regrets not signing for West Ham last season and signing for Nottingham Forest instead. I completely understand that. If the contract offers were true, which was 10 million a year at Nottingham Forest or 23 million for 3 years at West Ham, I can understand why he would regret that decision. Not just because he's obviously £13 million out of pocket, but also because West Ham won a European trophy last season. There was glory. There was gold in them their hills at West Ham last season. And at the end, he wasn't featuring for Nottingham Forest. Nottingham Forest didn't want him. He couldn't fit into the team. Morgan Gibbs-White and Brennan Johnson were doing all the attacking for Nottingham Forest. They stayed up. Didn't really need Jesse Lingard, did they? So, as it appears, he's been down training with West Ham and convincing everybody that he's a changed man, or back to the old Jesse, whichever you want to call it. David Moyes is impressed. All the West Ham squad have been impressed. He's a good guy to have around the training ground because he's a bit of a joker and he's bubbly and all that other stuff. And from what we hear, he's willing to sign on the dotted line to prove himself to West Ham. Now, that would be a short-term contract. However, if he did impress, then a longer one would be offered to him. And as a means of proving himself, he's willing to sign that short-term contract for a very, very low fee. Now, I'm not sure it's going to be the low fee. Do you remember Mido? Is that Mido? Something like that. But the Egyptian footballer, a good player, really good player. Do you remember he signed for West Ham for £1,000 a week to prove himself? I'm not sure that's what we're looking at here. So and I wouldn't even speculate what the fee would be. But short-term contract, I guess, until the January window. Give him a chance to prove himself at West Ham. And to be honest with you, I think in many respects it would make an awful lot of sense for all concerned. However, this news that Fenerbahce and Galatasaray are interested, if I'm going to be a cynic, maybe I would suggest that this might have been drummed up by some agents to give West Ham the hurry up, because the Jesse Lingard's been training with West Ham rumours been going on for about 5 weeks now, hasn't it? And this short-term cheapo contract is not forthcoming. If we believe what we've been told, which is Jesse Lingard will sign anything that's put in front of him, then you can only assume that West Ham haven't offered the deal yet. We want to see a little bit more. You hear from the training ground, David Moyes thinks he's not quite up to full match sharpness yet. And that sort of makes sense. Why would we pay for him if you're going to pay for him on a weekly basis? Pay for him to train for 2 weeks if he's going to train for free. Wait until he's ready for first-team football, then pay him. Makes absolute sense. However, I do think there is a little bit of me that thinks, well, maybe this is a little bit of a hurry up. It's just reminding West Ham, hold on, there are other clubs interested. And why wouldn't they? As I say, a free transfer, you can sign him immediately. Forget that there's a transfer window. Anybody can sign Jesse Lingard today. There's nothing stopping that. So we're about to find out quite how much he really wants to sign for West Ham, but we're also going to find out quite how much West Ham want to sign him. I think it'll happen. I just thought it was probably wise of me to bring this latest news to you. I'm not going to quite call it breaking news because and run the old yellow ticker tape across the bottom of the screen and all that. I don't have one. Well, that's for starters anyway. And I'm not fooling anyone. I'm not hardly in a news studio, am I? In my shed. Hot today. Hot. What's happened? There was no summer, and now we're getting the summer now, right when the kids have gone back to school. They're not happy, my kids, I'll tell you about that. Anyway, the other thing is Nayef Aguerd. Gio covered this earlier. As I understand it, Nayef Aguerd has no interest in going to to Saudi Arabia. I don't mean generally. I'm sure he'd like a lovely holiday there and whatnot, but I don't think he's got any intention on going there and playing football over there. He's very, very happy at West Ham, apparently. And this comes from a journalist whose name escapes me, but a Mexican journalist who's got, well, he's got loads of Twitter followers, so I'm assuming he's bona fide. I'm assuming that he knows what he's talking about. So apparently he has turned around and said the lack of interest is on Nayef Aguerd's part. Nayef Aguerd does not want to go to Saudi. So I think that really should be the end of that. I think it would be absolutely crazy to sanction the sale of a player, bearing in mind we can't get any replacement at the moment. I'd rather have too many centre-backs than too few. And I totally understand what Gio was saying. Not that Gio said he wanted to sell him, but Gio was saying, we're probably all right there with Mavropanos coming in and... Obviously, Ogbonna, I thought he played well when Ogbonna stood in for a game as well, didn't he? And obviously, Tilo Kehra's not getting much of a look in at the moment. But we got European football around the corner, and it's going to be really interesting to see what David Moyes does with that. I think we're in a very, very different situation now, aren't we, that we were last season and certainly the season before, where he doesn't rotate that much in Europe, Moyes. He actually does want to win these European competitions. In fact, that's something I could never level against him. Apart from there was one game, a cup game, where we went away to Everton. I think Calvert-Lewin might have scored a hat-trick in that game. He played a totally second string in that game, David Moyes, and he didn't. He took a load of people up on the bench, and he didn't ever even use them off the bench. Not that I hold grudges and remember these sort of things, of course. Aside from that, I think he's given every cup competition his absolute best. He's tried to win it. And I would imagine he'll do exactly the same. He's going to have got a taste for it, let's be fair. So I think he'll go for the League Cup, he'll go for the FA Cup, and he'll try and win the Europos Cupos. So I think with that in mind, we're going to see a little bit of interchange in terms of the Premier League starting 11s and the European starting 11s. But he has a much stronger squad now. Look, say what you want, think what you want about Flynn Downs. I think it's fair to say David Moyes didn't overly rate him. That's not going to be the case now. There's going to be a situation where a very good midfielder is left out all the time. So David Moyes is going to have no qualms about whatever the composition of midfield is, be it Souček and Alvarez, or be it Alvarez and Ward-Prowse, or whatever the case may be. Whatever combination you like, David Moyes is going to have no qualms playing either of those in either a Premier League game or a European game. And with that in mind, I think we need to keep all the players that we can. So irrespective of whatever bid comes in from Saudi. Now, because I don't believe that there's going to be a £100 million bid from Saudi, I don't believe Saudi are coming with a £50 million bid for Aguerd. I think if they came in with any bid at all, you'd probably be looking at the sort of money that we paid for him, which is 30-odd million. And I just think, you know what? It ain't worth it. He can be a little bit iffy. Gio's absolutely right. He does make you nervous when he defends. He does look like there's a little accident in him. Not one of those. It's disgusting. A little accident in him every so often. However, I do think he is a very, very good centre-back. I think we're just going to start to really appreciate his full range of passing, because I think we are going to be unapologetically a nasty, horrible, tough-to-beat counter-attacking team this season. And I think he's going to play his part in there. I think I like the way he moves the ball over long distances quickly. I like the way, for a while, I've wanted him to do a little bit more of that. I've wanted Areola in the team because he distributes it more quickly. Got Ward-Prowse in there as well, who will try and move the ball quickly forward as well. And now, hopefully, with Kudus gets in the team, we've got some pace there. I would suggest we're better set up for attacking football than we ever have been under David Moyes. And I do think Aguerd is going to be a part of that. So I think it'd be very, very interesting to see what happens. If he doesn't want to go, I certainly don't want to be forcing him out the door. He looks happy as well. If you see any of that training ground footage, he looks to be a man happy with life at West Ham, doesn't he? Anyway, there you go. That's just my little update today. Jesse Lingard of interest to a couple of Turkish teams. Don't think it's going to happen. Expect him to sign for West Ham. Nayef Aguerd of interest to a Saudi Arabia team. I've forgotten the name of the club. As Gio said earlier on, it's the rich one. I say the rich one. That's funny, isn't it? Like any of those Saudi clubs are going to be paupers. Actually, I'm not going to say what I was. I'm not going to say what I was going to say about where all the money is, distributed and whatnot. Because quite frankly, I don't know. But what I would say just on that is it is rather unsettling, and the transfer window was brought in Because those of you of a certain vintage will remember a time where there was no transfer window. You could just buy and sell players all the time. All the time. Throughout the season, end of the season, middle of the season, at any time. They brought in the transfer window for one reason and one reason only, and it was to stop the mayhem, and it was to stop clubs being unsettled. And they even had... It even went a little bit too far by it stretching a month into the season. There wasn't even a winter window initially when they first brought it in, if you remember. But it was there. The whole purpose of the transfer window was to stop the chaos, was to basically, so as coaches knew and football clubs knew that they had a squad or a set of players for the remainder of the season. If you're going to allow certain leagues to operate outside of the parameters and outside of the calendar transfer windows, then you have chaos anyway. You basically either bring everybody in line, so everybody has the same transfer window, or scrap transfer windows altogether. This halfway house, this meet in the middle thing is no good at all. Anyway, speaking of meet in the middle, I'm off to have a sandwich. I'll catch up with you tomorrow.